Well, ladies and gentlemen of On the Line, if you're anything like me, you are absolutely not even half finished your Christmas buying list. And what better to put under the Christmas tree for your loved ones than books? Last minute emergency suggestions that you can pick up today to get your Christmas shopping done. Again, with us, we have Brandon Forsyth, who is a longtime book buyer with Indigo. He is here to chat books. He's here to chat suggestions. He's here on the line with me, Jen Gerson, today. Brandon, we have you here again on the Line. By the time this comes out, we are going to be like 2 weeks to Christmas. Everyone is panicking. Nobody knows what to buy their loved ones for Christmas. Once again, we have you on to talk books, what's new, what's exciting, what's emerging, to chat about what really you should be buying your family, friends and family for Christmas. Before we get started, this was asked, we've had you on before to talk about books and book buying and what we should be looking at. And in our comment section, we did have someone ask us whether or not the line is taking any kind of cut as a result of the books that you're recommending. The answer is no, we are not. We just have Brandon on because he actually is at the leading edge of what's trending in books. And I like books. Also, my husband only lets me buy him books for Christmas. So this is actually just a thing. So with that disclaimer noted right off the top, Brandon, help us, save us.
My pleasure.
What do we do?
So, yes, thank you so much for having me on again. I really enjoyed chatting with you last time. And yeah, thanks again for the opportunity. This is the best time of year to be in a bookstore, honestly. Like, there's so much, like, kind of chaos and controlled like anxiety, but it's also like a wonderful time to explore some new stuff. So I've got a bunch of recommendations for you. I thought I might start with kids, if that's okay.
Please,
Christmas
yes.
is for kids, and if you're anything like me, they are sometimes the hardest people to buy for.
They're so hard to buy for. I feel like I do nothing but buy disposable plastic crap for my children, and they love it intensely for 30 seconds, and then it disappears into their room.
So let's make some more like lifelong, memories here. I've got something for essentially every age range. So I know I have a new niece in my life, which is very exciting. I am going to be buying her parents our number one kids book of the year this year, a picture book called Don't Trust Fish. This is a book written by Neil Sharpson. A very fun, I think, like, going to be a sort of classic add to your like childhood memories kind of book. It's all about how fish are a very suspicious sort of species, and what are they up to, and why do they look so odd, and it's all about where you actually get your information from. And I think it's a very funny, very sassy story that also manages to sneak a nice little moral in as well. And I think lots of opportunities for parents to have fun voices and great art and all of that stuff that makes a picture book so great. Everyone here at the office has just like fallen in love with it. It's a very fun and very, I think, valuable addition to a children's library. Moving on a little older, I think in that sort of like 6 to 8 age range, if you're anything like me, when you were growing up, like Diary of a Wimpy Kid was like the thing at that age. Lots of toilet humor and that kind of thing that kind of keeps you moving through the pages when reading might not be your favorite thing. That author, Dave Pilkey, is still top of the charts. He has a new series called Dogman, which is phenomenally popular with that age range. If that kid in your life that's that age has already been through all of that stuff, I can recommend this series called Investigators by John Patrick Green enough. They are very fun, sort of James Bondy spoof things with two alligators who are investigators, and they get up to all sorts of mischief and wild stuff. It's a very, very fun series, and just sort of you can't predict where the next page is going to go. They're graphic novels, so very easy to read if kids are sort of reluctant readers or not terribly strong readers. Great way to like segue them into learning bigger words, learning bigger vocabulary, while also having a blast just reading this crazy, insane story. There are now 9 books in the series as well, so if you get them hooked, there's a lot more to get going and continue that passion for reading.
So 2 points. One is that in all the books that we're going to be mentioning, I'm going to put underneath the podcast here. So if you're reading this on the Substack, these links will be available to you. Also, I'm going to try and put this in the YouTube descriptions box as well, so you can link to this. Dave Pilkey, my house, I assure you, is filled with Dave Pilkey books. Like, if you're a parent with young children, this guy is not avoidable. How has he been this successful? Like,
And you're
he's so
so
prolific.
wrong. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's been
it's
incredible. I
crazy.
mean, I guess it just means that like there's a certain amount of childhood interests that just kind of stay the same, no matter what age or what generation you're born into.
So Dogman, I think he did Captain Underpants too. Did he do the bad guys stuff as well?
No, that's another
No,
author,
that's
but
different.
again, a
Okay.
similar kind of thing for sure.
Similar kind of stuff. Okay. One thing I did want to talk about, because this is an interesting point. I'm glad we started with kids. One thing I am noticing that seems to be much more normalized among kids nowadays compared to when we were growing up is the graphic novel.
Yes.
It used to be like graphic novels and comics were like, it's not that our age didn't read them, but that was not considered proper reading.
Yeah.
And you were expected to like get into non-picture books pretty quickly. It seems to me like the culture around that has totally shifted, and now even kids 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 are still reading graphic novels.
Yeah.
But they seem to be much more sophisticated than comic books. Is that correct?
I think there's an element of that is correct for sure in terms of the sophistication. Like I think there's still a very childlike sense of wonder and sort of make believe in a lot of these things. But there is, I think, on the flip side of that, like a sort of growing acceptance that if that's what kids want to read, then like we shouldn't necessarily shame them. We should just sort of encourage that habit in the hopes that they'll continue to grow in their reading habits and continue to find more and more stuff even outside of that graphic novel genre to continue reading. So yeah, it's interesting. I think we've seen some data that suggests that Canada is actually kind of leading the charge there. Some of the American data that we have suggests that is still like kind of a shamed kind of area for them, and the graphic novel acceptance is not as big down there as it is here. But yeah, I think it's all for the good there. Kind of ties back to some of the stuff we talked about last time, where it's like if you love reading something, just read it, and like if that encourages you to grow and be a deeper reader, bigger reader, then I think that's all to the better.
Well, it's interesting. I remember even it wasn't really till I entered university and we studied in popular literature. It was Maus.
Yeah.
That was sort of like my first real introduction to graphic novels, because before then there was like a sense of like, no, you don't. It's fine to read a comic book now and again, but that's junk food. That's not real reading, right?
Yeah.
And Mouse was a totally just very dark, very sophisticated, like very
Yeah.
adult themed book. Like don't get your kids Mouse. Don't do that. That's not the right age group. These are adult graphic novels. And Persepolis is another one of those graphic novels that I really loved. But
And
again, not for kids. Don't do that. Is it
but
also because anime is coming more into the culture now? Like, I think anime has been normalized.
there's a huge amount of interest, yeah, in Korean, Japanese animation and all of that. Like our manga sections have exploded in the last couple
Hmm.
of years. If you've been in our stores, they used to be, kind of single row maybe. Now they take up entire bays of our stores, and yeah, there's definitely a interest in that expands into sort of a whole new sort of area of reader, which is really exciting. And for us on the adult side, increasingly our sort of adult graphic novel section, it's not the DCs and Marvels that make up the bulk of our sales anymore. It is those more sort of literary graphic novels, personal graphic novels, that kind of thing. So yeah, there's a lot of interest there. And I think a lot of very cool books in the last couple of years that have really pushed the form into new areas. I remember Kate Beaton's Ducks won the Canada Reads and all of that. So there's a lot of really cool stuff out there. If you've never given it a shot as an adult, there's a lot of cool things out there as well.
Cool. All right. Are we doing more kids' books?
I've got one more recommendation for like your 9 to 12s. Last year, our number one book was a title called Impossible Creatures by Catherine Rundell. It was the sort of closest thing that our kids team had seen to a sort of Harry Potter-esque phenomenon since those books. The second book is out now, so if you didn't get into the series, there are now 2 books to explore. If you did read the first one, the second book, The Poisoned King, is now out. It's a wonderful world. It's kind of tackles a bunch of very interesting sort of modern day issues around climate, around sort of political structures and things like that. It's about a boy who lives in this sort of magical realm where these magical creatures are kind of dying off and nobody understands why. He gets swept up on this epic quest. He becomes sort of this defender of the realm with his friends. And the wonderful thing about these books is that they're really about sort of group action. It's about forming a team, forming a collective, forming a community to tackle these things. And I think there's a lot of just wonderful magic and whimsy in it as well. People have said sort of like a dash of J.K. Rowling and a dash of sort of Philip Pullman on the sort of darker kid side of things. So those books have just been wonderful. We're really excited. I think it's going to be a 5-book series over the next couple of years. So just wanted to keep an eye out for. And I think for kids at that age who maybe need a little bit more whimsy, magic, adventure to go along with all the darkness, perfect kind of recommendation at this time of year.
Well, I'm not quite ready to start giving my 9-year-old, nonfiction just yet, especially in the current political environment. Topical nonfiction is maybe not light Christmas reading for kids. So
Indeed.
A little bit of whimsy, a little bit of fun, a little bit of magic.
Totally.
Still there.
So now I've got some adult recommendations. Would you like to start fiction or nonfiction?
Let's start fiction because I feel Christmas is more of a time for fiction.
Yes, definitely.
I feel that it's kind of like Christmas reading and summer reading are fiction times to me in my head, but I don't know if I'm unique in that.
No, I think that's broadly true. There's a lot of it's time for a little escape, a little coziness. Let's get into something that's not so nonfiction-y. So the biggest book that we have this year and the sort of go-to gift, I would say, for someone who maybe you don't know what they like to read, you're not sure what the kind of reader is that you're buying for. Dan Brown has a new book, The Secret of Secrets.
Oh no, another Dan Brown book.
Now, the writing quality may be of, debatable quality. Sometimes you'll be geographically confused about where characters are, but no one kind of blends a lot of sort of real world topics into a sort of thriller narrative, I think, as well as Dan Brown. I actually reread Da Vinci Code this summer, and I loved the way that it touched on all of the sort of big topics of, religion, of society, culture, where we were going, science. And I think this new one is all about consciousness. There's some AI stuff in there as well. And I think that it's just a fun, pulse-pounding kind of thriller for someone who needs something that's just a pure escape. I don't think anyone can do it as well as Dan Brown.
So this is where my inner snob comes out a little bit.
Please.
And it's because I write for a living. And the technical form of writing matters to me a lot. And when I read a book that is technically poorly written, or like the sentence structure is sloppy, or like when I start to feel my inner editor come out and be like, typos, sloppiness, it takes me out of the space. It takes me out of the enjoyable reading space. This is probably also why I struggle to read fiction now.
Right.
I'm sure there's lots of brilliantly written fiction, but if your fiction is not well written, technically good, well written fiction, I will be unable to escape into that space in the same way. I don't necessarily hold nonfiction to the same technical standards because I'm not engaging my fantasy space. So I don't know if that makes sense, but maybe it's a left brain, right brain thing. But like fiction to me is almost a right brain phenomena. So I'm engaging my imaginative space. And if my left brain editor has to come out and start being like, there's a typo, that's passive sentence structure. Like it kills me. It kind of kills me.
And for a fiction, right, you need something that keeps you in the world. So I totally get that. I think
it doesn't need to be brilliant, but it needs to be technically competent,
Totally. I do think there's, dare I say, some signs of growth in Mr. Brown's writing in this latest novel. I did not find as many times that I was pulled out of things, sort of confused by things. So anyways, it's not for everyone, but I do think if it's, again, a lot of the times that we see, especially in the weeks running up to Christmas, it's those people on the list that you just don't know what to do, right? And someone like Dan Brown, I think, is a very safe bet there. It's going to give someone a thrill, an adventure. You're good to go. It's popcorn.
This is 100% an excellent Christmas book suggestion. This is generically popular, good quality, can't go wrong. And I will have to admit, I'm probably not the normative book buyer.
But I have something for you too.
Okay, all right.
So our number one.
Give something to the 0.01% of people. That's how you make your money at Indigo. Got it.
For those that want a little more beautiful sentences, etc. Our number one book of the year this year is actually a book called Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. Sorry, this is a book that actually came out much earlier in the year. A bunch of U.S. personalities picked it. It was one of Reese Witherspoon's book club picks. All that stuff. It kind of got a lot of traction. And like a lot of these books, we sort of saw a big spike in sales as people were talking about it, and then it kind of like leveled off a little bit through the summer. And then over the summer, it just kind of kept growing and growing, and more people here at the Indigo offices read it and started loving it and started talking about it with each other. And eventually, sort of, there was a mass consensus in our building, and I think a growing consensus in the culture, that this was a book that was really special. It's a very interesting story. It's about a family that lives in this little island off Antarctica. They are responsible for a seed library there. And this mysterious woman sort of washes up on shore one day. They're kind of the lone family. And so there's this sort of mutual game of distrust that evolves between the family and her, where we're getting chapters from both perspectives, and there's this kind of distrust of the other, which feels very of the moment as well. And I think it leads up into this very sort of very thrilling and potent kind of story, but also something with some real psychological depth as well. And I think it's just a book that we're gonna see sort of become like a go-to, almost in that, I don't want to call it like Girl on the Train because it's much better written than Girl on the Train, but it's kind of got that quality where there's something for almost anyone to latch into and connect with. And so I think it's just a really great read that, like I said, I don't think I've talked to a single person here at the office who hasn't enjoyed it. So yeah, that's a guaranteed read from us as well. You can tell that to your gift recipient. If they don't like it, you can read the whole thing. As long as the book's still in sellable shape, you bring it back to us. We'll just take it, no questions asked. Get store credit for something else.
That's great. Okay, that's how much faith you have. Okay, so I love that idea because one, I really feel like there's three kinds of Christmas people. There's Christmas people who hate Christmas. There's Christmas people who love Christmas like too much and they're really into cozy Christmas. And then there's Christmas people who love Christmas but want to bring back Krampus. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like I don't, like, yes, I'm really into the Christmas lights. I'm really into the Christmas decorations, but this is the time of year for watching horror. You know what I mean? Like, I like, do you think, is The Green Knight a Christmas movie? Yes or no? If you say yes, you're one of the third types of Christmas people. And what I love about that Christmas book is one, fiction, so that hits my button. Two, takes place in a cold, stark environment. I can visually get myself there at this time of year. And three, it seems sort of psychologically tense and dark. Oh shoot, I've just confessed too much about my childhood. No, but like that seems like the kind of book that's good for the sort of person who wants to bring back Krampus, you know? Like I want Saint Nick, but I also want the demon who torments children who have been naughty.
Sometimes there's so much holly jolliness in the air that, yeah, you need a little dark diversion, right, along the way.
Little edge. Just want that little edge, you know?
And then
Excellent.
I just thought, for one other recommendation, romance continues to be such a trending thing in books and in the wider culture. I feel like I would be remiss if I did not talk about the hottest Canadian export of the year, which is Heated Rivalry, which is this show on Crave, which has been picked up by HBO. It's based on a Canadian writer's romance series. It's a hockey romance. This thing has
romance? Is that such a thing possible?
Well, yes, because it's between two male hockey players. It's a gay romance.
Okay, all right, that's hot. But like hockey's smelly. It's the pads and the unwashed and it.
There's a certain
the smell of a hockey rink doesn't
do it for you. Yeah, that's fair.
It doesn't do it. I mean, I'm also maybe not the normative reader for a gay romance. Like maybe that's not for me, but I don't know. Maybe do gay men feel differently about hockey? I don't know. I don't have answers to these questions.
Well, I have to say the straight women in the office here have been loving this series, and
okay, all right.
The show is getting so popular. I think I saw the other day that it is one of TikTok's top trending sort of topics right now. People are desperate to find books as well because I think the American publishing market thought, oh, there's this small Canadian hockey queer show. How many people will be interested in that? And didn't print enough copies, essentially. So we still have stock. We still have copies in Canada because we love to support our Canadian authors. But I know worldwide it has become a bit of a phenomenon. And I think the show finale airs just after the new year, so it will continue to be a trending topic for people. And the people here that have loved the show have gotten into the books and say that the books are great, give you all this great chemistry and banter and everything that you want from a great romance. So just thought I'd mention that.
Is it like Shoresy but with sex?
Basically, yes. One of the showrunners for this adaptation actually came from Letterkenny, so he is like very much involved with that group.
Okay, so queer Canadian hockey erotica crossed with Letterkenny.
Listen, I don't think it's on anyone else's Christmas recommendation list, but here I am talking to you about it.
You know what? I think it's one for my mom. I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
I have been told to say that there's a PSA that watching the show with family members is not a good idea. So I'll just share that with your audience as well. If you're curious about the show, alone is apparently the way to watch it.
Look, we've all broken too many taboos and boundaries helping our parents put 50 Shades of Grey onto their Kobo.
This could be that for a whole new generation of people. It's true.
Whole new generation of people. There you go. Okay. All right.
Shall we switch to nonfiction? Something where...
Okay, first we will go to the nonfiction, but I first want to preface this, and that is anyone who knows me and my wonderful husband, my husband only ever wants books for Christmas. That's all he wants. We have a library of about 6,000 books, literally.
Amazing.
It's true. And he's nerded out and categorized them all. He has a library app and the whole deal. It's extreme. It's up there.
It.
But I'm like, what do you want for Christmas? Can I get you something fun and exciting and new? And it's like, no, I want books. And I'm like, okay, you want books. Great. Here's my problem. Here's my problem, Brandon, because his tastes are so rarefied that I can't I couldn't begin to guess what he would be into, and I'm never good at getting him books because he's like, it's not just the latest military history book. No. It's like some kind of weird academic reprint of the history of the 2014 conflict between Russia and Ukraine and the necessary systemic and military reforms that needed to come. It's stuff like that.
Yes.
I don't know, and you have to be so deep in the weeds to even understand what the next It book is. I don't know. I'm not smart enough. I ain't smart like that. I ain't book smart.
Let me tell you, I have been given very similar feedback in the past as well. I feel like, I am also one of those people where it's like, oh, thank you, but I've already got this copy. Those people love an Indigo gift card, okay? We love nothing more than to buy for
wrap an Indigo gift card for my husband for Christmas. Come on, I'm like, can I get you a knife or something? You
can put that in the stocking and, maybe we'll make an effort at something else. But yeah, I think when we've got someone that specialized, a list is what he needs to be providing you, right? A list is what you need.
Right? Yeah. Give me a list. I don't think that's unreasonable.
Absolutely not. And many people like to go that extra effort and I saw this and I thought of you. It's when you're that specific, you got to provide the list because you're going to get 6 copies of the same book at some point.
Uh-huh.
All right, so let me dive into the nonfiction here. I don't know if I have military history in the 2014 conflict that specific, but I do have a couple of broader recommendations for people who might be looking for...
Give me something for the middle-aged man who chose World War II as opposed to barbecue.
Yeah, right. Okay, we can work with that.
Or the Roman Empire,
Oh, there's so much great stuff coming out about Rome, and I re-examining a lot of the stuff about Rome that we think we know. I would say
that's actually a bad leading indicator for society writ large, but okay, sure.
Indeed. I will say very quickly on that topic, there's a book from I believe he's a UTM professor in Toronto here, called Radical Antiquity this year that came out, which is very interesting. It was all about the sort of rebels and dissidents and people who just lived very odd, weird lifestyles in the Roman Empire. I think and the Greeks as well. And I think we look back at that time as sort of this, everyone was in the Parthenon and, living in these, true democracy circles and things like that. But it's a great look at a very odd time. So if that's of any interest, I love
Does
that book.
it does it get into like how prostitutes lived in Rome? Because I'm really interested by how prostitutes lived in Rome.
There are some chapters on that, yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, I could be into that.
Okay,
All right.
great. So on a broader scale, I thought I would just talk about our actual number one bestseller in the nonfiction category. There's a lot of great nonfiction authors out with books. Our top seller, though, is a reissue of a book that was created, I believe, 38 years ago. This is David Chilton's The Wealthy Barber. If you're anything like me, you grew up in a household where your parents may have had a copy on the shelf. David has gone back and I think he's gotten a lot of feedback over the years that the book was just sadly no longer that relevant given all of the things that have changed in that time. And so he's updated it and surprise, surprise, it is our number one seller this year. An incredible success story for a Canadian author who effectively was selling a book from, 4 decades ago. But really interesting advice, practical advice. There's a lot of humor in the book. And again, like you said, updated to sort of reflect for a younger audience who's, I think one of the things that he's acknowledging is that there are all of these pressures on cost of living and, house prices and all of these things that just make saving a really tough challenge. And so he's got some new ideas about
He
how to do
doesn't
that.
he doesn't blame millennials for buying the avocado toast.
I don't think it's one of those books. No, I think there's a
Okay.
little more, the little more understanding of, income versus housing pricing not matching up very well. So
Right, right, right.
a lot of very practical advice though on, TFSAs and all sorts of very practical, easy to understand steps. And like I said, I think the thing that sets him apart is like a real dash of humor. So, I think everyone's watching their pocketbooks closely. I think we've seen that for the last like 2 years, this sort of pressure on people's wallets. It's a very good book. And frankly, like we've been very surprised by how popular it's been. And so I think that's a real success story for a Canadian author and really lovely to see. On the flip side of that story, somewhat discouraging lack of success from a beloved Canadian property. My beloved Toronto Blue Jays, of course, came so close to winning the World Series. But there's a lovely sort of souvenir book for the sports fan in your life that we have in stores called What a Ride. It sort of recaps the Jays season, lots of full color photography, lots of fun little like callbacks to things that happened in the season. A really great gift for any sports fan on your list. I think we see sports is one of the categories that we see spike the most in the last sort of 4 days, where it's just people coming in being like, I don't know what to get them that live sports. This would be my go-to recommendation for anyone that that likes the Jays.
Okay, 2 points. One, the fact that an old economics practical advice book is making a comeback, which no disrespect to the author at all, because I'm sure it's excellent, but like that is also a bad leading indicator for society writ large. Like I have concerns upon talking to you. But also at the same time, part of the reason why those books are so popular is because so often schools don't spend a lot of time
Yeah.
teaching kids practical,
Yep.
financial, like how to budget, how to live your life,
Yeah.
functional types of skills, right? So it's good to have a book that teaches, especially young people, what is a TFSA and how do I use it appropriately and what blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
This is all really good, excellent advice. Unless you have a husband who's smarter than you and you just have him take care of all of it. No, that's a bad joke. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm going to get in trouble for that one. I'm going to get in trouble for a lot of ones, but I'm going to get in more trouble for the next one.
Okay.
Because, like, what a ride. That is a Canadian memorabilia book of the World Series we almost won but lost.
Yep.
I'm sorry, but that is so depressingly Canadian. I can't even. Look, one of the big points of malaise in our country is that we, like, want credit for trying hard.
Yes.
Like, I'm sorry. Like what? Like this is one of the problems we have as a country. Like we're just like, you shouldn't be critical because they tried really hard. Like, fuck you. Nobody cares how hard you try. Perform. Like succeed at something. Win.
You're making me
And
re-examine my Canadian inferiority complex live
right,
on air.
but this is endemic. We all try to be so freaking nice, and we all try to acknowledge that real effort was made. That we've lost, the ability to be like, yeah, you failed. You didn't measure
It's
up.
so close though, Jen. So
You
close.
blew it. You blew it. Like,
Agonizing.
no, okay. I'm gonna get into politics here just for a second. Because you want to know the most endemic, like the worst example of this I've ever encountered in covering politics. It was when Global Affairs Canada decided to put up a plaque, I think in their Ottawa headquarters, for congratulating themselves about what a great job they did evacuating everyone out of Afghanistan when the Taliban took over.
Ooh,
Which,
very
if you had covered this or followed this, you knew that they did a terrible job of this. Like they completely screwed the pooch at almost every level, and yet they rewarded themselves a plaque that they put up like in their lobby because they tried so hard. Like this is everything that's wrong with this country in a fucking nutshell. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter if you try hard. I don't care. No one cares. Don't try hard and win. That's better. How about that? How about try less hard and succeed?
Maybe a better
I don't
title
know.
could have been the step to our 2026 World Series championship. Maybe that we can go back and revise that next
No,
year.
my next book when I'm done, the one that I'm almost finished, is going to be like something around the idea of I don't care how hard you tried, or something like inputs don't matter. Like work less hard and succeed more. How about that? I don't know. Anyway, no points for no, there it is. No points for effort. Zero points for effort. None. Come back to me when you win the World Series or World Cup or whatever sports ball thing it is. Anyway, there we go. That's my rant. I'm a terrible person. It's fine. That's my terrible person rant. Somebody in this country has to be a terrible person, okay? One person.
We
This
need
country
someone
can
who's
tolerate
not
one
satisfied in
terrible
second place.
person. There we go. This country has to be able to tolerate one person like me. One.
Well, I'll throw you another grumpy woman if you'd like.
Okay. All right, throw me a grumpy woman. That's fine.
So, Canadian icon Margaret Atwood has written her first memoir this season. That is also one of our biggest books of the year. But I was, I loved reading this book. It's called Book of Lives. It is a memoir of sorts, is what she calls it. But it's so sassy. One of the things I love about Margaret Atwood, and I think culturally she's not given as much sort of, I think because of her books being such like dark satires of things, that we don't really focus on how funny she is. And when she's telling the story of her own life, there is a little bit of that Canadian sort of self-condescending tone perhaps, but also like a real brash confidence, which is so charming to have those two sort of fighting each other on the page. I also didn't know a lot about Margaret's early life. Like if you're of my generation, it's sort of like Margaret's kind of always just been this luminary who, exists in a cloud somewhere writing these wonderful novels. But she grew up in the bush. Like her dad was a real like scientist out there, like doing work for government and corporations and stuff. And she was like a wild child. Like she was just growing up in the sticks basically. So there's a really cool like glimpse into early Canada, like sort of 1967 Canada kind of thing, and then really building through this like story of her becoming the icon that she is today, and lots of like juicy celebrity bits and all the things that you want from a big celebrity memoir as well. But I was just really thrilled by like how quickly it read. It just like read like your sassy best friend kind of talking to you about this crazy life that she's lived. So love that as a memoir. I think definitely we knew that was going to be a popular book just because Margaret is such an icon, but I was just so thrilled that it delivered on all of the just sort of promise that it was supposed to have. So really, really pleased by that book as well.
Well, it's Margaret Atwood's fault that I am almost finished writing my book. So there you go. She's the one who made me do it.
Nice. Oh, really?
It's her fault. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah?
No, it's well, I could tell you the story if you want to hear the story, but yeah, no, the book that was supposed to have finished writing 4 years ago, but now have only just almost finished writing. Sorry, Doug. Anyway, so I had written so this started a couple of years ago. Tristan Hopper, who at that point was the editor of kind of an upstart daily Victoria-based news site called The Capital, reached out to me and said, Jen, I want you to do like a 1,500-word story on Michelle Remembers, who was one of the Canadian memoirists whose personal story of how she went to a therapist and then recovered memories of satanic sexual abuse from her childhood, her personal memoir, which was then later completely and totally debunked, became the epicenter of the satanic panic of the 80s and 90s. And all of this story actually took place in Victoria, BC. And so Tristan was like, hey, here's this. He's really into history, just sort of random facts of Canadian history. He reached out to me and said, Jen, could you just write like a little mini feature about this book? And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. This is completely up my alley. Yeah, absolutely. I will write you a feature. Like, this is completely the stuff something I'd be fascinated with. Started to really get into it, reread the book, did the whole thing. And as I started to write it, I realized I can't contain this in 1,500 words. If you understand what happened here, you can understand. You've unlocked. I felt like I'd found a key to understanding and unraveling the mysteries of the universe.
So
when
cool.
I read this thing, I was like, if you can understand what happened here, we can understand what happens in moral panics and sustained sort of political manipulation up into this current day. I felt like this actually had the key in it. And so I write this article, and Margaret Atwood and I had been sort of corresponding back and forth because I'd been trying to get her to write something for the line for us. And so we met, and she's like, well, do you want to meet for like a coffee sometime? And I was like, yeah, I do.
Sure.
I really, really do. So I met her for like a Zoom coffee, and I started telling her about this article that I was writing. And like, I was super into the satanic panic. She was really into witch hunts. Like, she had this super side fascination with what happened with like the Salem witch hunts. And so we completely bonded over this. And so I told her, like, look, I can't write this piece. And anyway, I wound up submitting a 10,000 word piece rather than 11, which is totally unprofessional. And you should never do that to a writer or to do that to an editor. But Tristan Hopper, to his credit, was like, okay, I can work with this. And like, we turned it into a whole major feature.
Amazing.
And then so I think Margaret Atwood read the feature and was like, well, of course, now this means you have to write a book. Right. And I was like, yeah, I guess I do, because this is a chapter. This isn't like, there's more to say here. And so she's the one who actually got me hooked up with the whole publishing side of all this, the book publishing side of all this, and encouraged me to actually turn this into a book. And I'm now at the stage in my book where I regret all of my life choices. I should never have agreed to write a book in the first place. I'm terrible at this. It's going to be awful. And I should never write anything again. So, but I'm told that that's a pretty normal, that's a pretty normal psychological stage. That passes. And then, of course, it will be published. No one will read it. No one will buy it. And then I'll be compelled to do it all over again. Like, that's what's going to happen here. I'm aware of my doom. Okay. But that's the story about how Margaret Atwood and I bonded over a mutual fascination in witches, and how societies turn on them and determine and turn on them, and how she made me write a book.
There you go. Well, I think we should have the book listing up on indigo.ca for pre-orders, as soon as we can. So let's get that going.
All right, I'll get on that. Yeah, get on that this week. It'll be great.
Yeah, I'm sure you've got nothing else going on the week before Christmas. I have one more nonfiction recommendation for you.
Okay, one more nonfiction recommendation.
This is more straight history. As we've previously discussed, that is my wheelhouse. That is what I love to read. I have been really impressed by a book called The Prime Ministers, Canada's Leaders and the Nations They Shaped. JDM Stewart, or John Stewart. He's a Globe and Mail writer. Very talented guy, and looks at like the entire course of sort of the Canadian prime ministership, and sort of talks about some of the larger trends that you see when you look at the office in that kind of scale. Really interesting work of history. I think particularly for Canadian history, there's not been really a book that's done this yet, which is kind of odd to think about. But really fantastic work, and by someone who really knows their stuff. And I think all sorts of interesting parallels that are drawn out over the course of Canadian history in this book. So for the Canadian history buff on your list, I would definitely go there. Great title.
Is there anything in this book that would help people come to terms with the current moment, our current relationship with the United States, and why we confederated in the first place, or why we felt compelled to confederate in the first place?
For sure. There is tons of stuff on that. And I think in particular around that idea of how do you negotiate a relationship with a much larger partner to your south, seeing the way that people have tackled that question through various political crises and, political parties and political movements, I think is really, really interesting because there is sort of a through line there that I think is particularly interesting for the moment that we're in now, where perhaps, there's always that nice thing of history where, that line of it doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. There are these moments through history where you can take some comfort in the fact that, things have been this bad before, and we've come out on the other side of it with, sometimes weak leadership and sometimes strong leadership as well in terms of how we tackle those things. So, yes, I think there are some specifics there that would bring comfort and perhaps even just a bit more understanding there in terms of getting out of the daily spin of the news cycle of what happened today as opposed to a larger term sort of scope.
I feel like I don't want comfort, I want action. Like what lessons can I learn from the past that I can like shove in some current leader's face and say, do this?
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything that specific that I would say I would take out of this book. But there are definitely some ideas there around, the nature of our relationship and how essentially we do need to coexist and we need to figure out, what are in the interests of both parties to move forward. That I think perhaps you could draw some inferences there around specific actions. But I don't know if I left that book thinking, oh, we just need to do this kind of thing.
Build a wall. Just
I'm not going to go there with you, Jen. I'm not going to go down
wall.
that road.
Build a wall. Okay, well, Brandon Forsyth, this has been wonderful. Just again, I will put links to all of these books underneath, down below, either in the comment section below, so people can check them out when they are doing their last minute Christmas shopping. Books are always the best bet when you don't know what else to get. In fact, I just came up with a little phrase. Books are the best bet when you don't know what else to get. See, it rhymes.
You should trademark that before we get on that.
It's a freebie. I'll give it to you.
Okay.
On that note, I would like to have you back at some point next year when we have a good sense of what kind of books are coming in and what the trends are, or where the trends are headed and going. But I figured this would be a fantastic way to cap off our season. This is actually going to be our very last On the Line for December. We're closing shop for the holidays. We're spending some time with our families, and we will be back again in January. But Brandon, as always, really fun to chat with you. So thanks so much for taking the time and coming on.
Thank you for having me.
All right, awesome. And like and subscribe and check us out at www.readtheline.ca.